Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Ape Escape. In the last part we continued on through our second lap of levels, and now it's time for us to start off in, I believe this is World 3. Notably, like you saw there, you do not have to do a second lap through the Jake race stages, at least, if you've beaten those the first time, because as I mentioned before, those are just for Spectre coins, 10 total between them. I think that's 10 out of the, I forget exactly how many Spectre coins there are, I think there are 70? 10 or 70 either way. And this is the first video where we're going to outright be speeding up through a lot of the level design that we've already been through because there's no new monkeys to catch here. Again, we're doing this only for when there's not something new we haven't gotten, so we're going to be going through a lot more stages this part than we did the last part. I think we go through about 2-3 worlds worth in this video alone. Hell, because we have some later tools, we can completely skip a lot of level design period, like this particular UFO monkey and the one with the gun here. The way you're supposed to reach them, I believe, is by going around via the passageway underneath me right now that I used to get to one of the other Spectre coins and monkeys earlier on. At least that's what I think you're supposed to do based off the cage that's over there. It's been so long since I explored other parts of this level that I genuinely do not remember. It's weird, because I played this game growing up a little bit, of course. But I go back to it now, there's portions of this stage I don't think I've ever seen, in the fact of, because of how I tend to play it, I so seldom need to see certain parts of this stage. And if I recall, there's a little bit of that in every single one of the Ape Escape games. At least that are the classic Catch Monkeys stuff, because Ape Escape is one of those that got a little bit experimental with its spin-offs, like Pumped and Primed, which was a sort of their approach to Mario Party, but not really Mario Party. It was more like mini games that go across a storyline, so I guess Crash Bash is a better comparison. I remember exactly when I bought that. I bought that in a mall at Philadelphia, and we were visiting there once, and I brought my PS2 with me on like one of those little portable television DVD player setups. That's also the trip that my brother beat Dirge of Cerberus as I watched on it. That was a trip. I never really played the other spin-offs though, like the PSP ones, because if I recall, weren't they Japan only? Hell, I was surprised recently to learn that there's an anime for this stuff that never made it outside of Japan, and it's got like a decent 3D art style that fits the art style of the games, and it's kind of surprising because you don't really see a lot of those for 3D anime nowadays. It's usually all that one studio that does a lot of the Netflix stuff, or the studio that did Beastars, or studios trying to do what Beastars did. Something I do appreciate, just because of the level scale, of Ape Escape 1 in particular at least, is whenever there's a lot of monkeys you miss in a stage, usually they're all condensed in either a single area you couldn't explore yet, or the areas are so small that there's very little backtracking time. Like, there's no, like, say, monkeys you can't get on a first trip on some of the longer levels, like, particularly thinking TV Tower and Monkey Madness here, where you have to backtrack through 20 minutes a level in order to actively get a monkey you missed. Usually all the monkeys are grabbable within, I'd say, 5 minutes, 7 minutes is the longest one of these revisits takes. And even then, that's usually because the monkey that I couldn't grab early is like the last monkey in a very linear level. Also, there's a much faster way to take care of this particular turret. You can just do the spin attack, and I think you'll stun lock it without it being able to actually damage you. I just forget to do that a lot because, honestly, despite how effective spin attacks are in games like Zelda, the spin attack in Ape Escape never really impressed me. But at the same time, that's because there's seldom opportunities where there's a bunch of enemies surrounding you that it becomes useful to use. Same with monkeys, because usually monkeys don't work in tandem. They usually just run away in opposite directions whenever there's a bunch of them near each other, at least. From memory, though, now we're moving on to probably one of the more in-depth revisits. At least with how I played the game. We're heading on over to our good old friend Jabu Jabu's belly. And every one of the monkeys I believe we're missing in this level are in Dexter's innards. And I compared this area to Jabu Jabu's belly just a moment ago and during the entire first visit of this stage, yes. During these last 5 monkeys and 1 Spectre coin, that becomes even more apparent. With that said, 2 of the monkeys we need to get here are also very early on in Dexter. I believe I even mentioned them both when we were first in there. One is a sunglasses-wearing monkey in a really polypy looking area, and the other requires a tool we didn't have at the time, the RC car. And this is probably one of the few RC car monkeys that doesn't outright annoy me because of the weird collision with walls and the monkey being scared by both you and the RC car at the same time, thus just moving in circles. Because this one, after it leaves its little hole, will more than likely run around the platform that's around you, but then jump into the water. Once it's in the water, it's just easy pickings from there. Not to mention, I usually find, whenever the monkeys have this sort of setup with the the RC car entrances, whenever they leave the hole, they automatically climb up the rest of the ramp as part of the animation, so you don't need to worry about them just fleeing right back in within frames. Yeah, like he just ran up that entire staircase. They don't usually do that in instances where there aren't ramps right next to them. I want to say that might be our last monkey capture with a water net. Rest in peace, useful tool. I think about the general tool list in the game. The water net might be the one that gets, I don't want to say the least use, but definitely, for catching monkeys at least, is the least useful in terms of any kind of approach, outside of just catching monkeys that are rarely in water. I recall Ape Escape 3 using that a lot more. I think Ape Escape 2 did. Again, Ape Escape 3 I've at least played since, like, the past decade and a half. Ape Escape 2, since I never owned that growing up, not so much memories as to certain parts of how that worked with monkey layouts. I just remember it being better than this game. And also that its voice actors were almost all entirely from the first Pokemon season or 2. Almost distractingly so, even. So the final few monkeys we haven't yet found are all in the back area towards here, near where that monkey gate that we unlocked right as we finished the stage last time is. The main reason I compare this place to Jabu Jabu's Belly, outside of literally everything else, comes into play past that monkey gate, as we have a mini-boss in this stage that is blatant, very, very blatant. Also, getting these monkeys in this room is so much easier with the propeller, because the big thing with them, they run up the cliffs here, like the very deep cliffs. You can't run up them yourself, at least not as easily without like the super hoop. Since you can now just jump up there yourself, you can wait for them up there, honestly, and they make for very easy catches. Take care of that doorway, and now we're at a mini-boss. This mini-boss is a bunch of the tentacles we just saw. Right over here towards where the health is, it's a safe spot where none of them can touch you. Just aim at them all with the slingshot in first person here. And eventually once you take them all down, not a Baronade comes back down. You just need to whack it over and over again to break this cage, freeing the monkey. And then we immediately recapture the monkey. That poor monkey knows nothing but capturing. Obviously, that doesn't have like the electric jellyfish angle, but this area is very blatant. It is not original at all.
You did it.
With that, though, we're now moving on to probably my least favorite world to revisit for a few scattered reasons. We're moving on to World 4, the Ice World. The main reason I don't like this world is twofold. One is the first level itself. It's an easy second revisit. The thing is, we're only here for one monkey. And unlike the later levels where it's one monkey you specifically need the magic punch to obtain, this is a monkey you could go right back in immediately and grab, because it's just past the 5th monkey I caught to end the level the first time through. There is nothing special about it. They just really want you to do a second visit to every level. And I don't get it. I don't get why. The other main reason I don't like this revisit is the hot springs level, because I really don't like that vertical climb still. If you fall down, that's a lot of time wasted, and You're less likely to at this point, probably, because you're a bit more used to how the game feels. But, still, the potential for danger is there. But yeah, just this dude right here. I don't know why they couldn't have made this one level the only level that you couldn't catch every monkey in, because you could just go right back in. Maybe they wanted it to be consistent, so there's like, why is this the one level you can get everyone in first time? Which, if that's the angle, I guess I kind of get it. But in that case, just make other levels 100%able on the first run. And again, Ape Escape 2 and 3 do better with this by either having more tools that allow you to get more monkeys, having more monkeys on the second visits, or just having... Actually, no, that's it. Having more monkeys on the second visits. Since Ape Escape 1 tends to only have, usually, about 3 to 5 monkeys on average per level that you couldn't get on the first run, it just really sticks out in this game. Like, I forget. What do we have here in Frosty Retreat left to get? I think, from memory, it's 3, right? I think it's the UFO one, the platform one, and a green monkey all in the last room of the stage. Based off this, I think I'm completely right. And I'll give them this, though. Revisiting the stages in any regard does make the level design stick with you more, I guess. Because you're like, alright, I remember this from last time, and from there you can figure out better ways to traverse through it. Like, it's more prevalent for stages before this world, admittedly, because in those ones you now have better movement tools. But even then, like, you'll remember the level design and go, okay, I know what this hazard is, I can do this now to avoid it better. But revisits in games and backtracking is such a touchy topic, because in some games, it's partially the entire point, and navigating it in an efficient way is what makes the game more replayable, hence Metroid. But in other games, like certain Resident Evils, it becomes detrimental to the game's feel, and just makes the game tedious to play. I'm immediately thinking of RE0 and RE Code Veronica. So, I'm not sure where to put Ape Escape in with all that. Because the levels are so short, I can't call it super tedious like it is with the Resident Evil games that I mentioned. But it's definitely not like a Metroid game in how it gets redefined with later abilities, or when you're searching for all the hidden nooks and crannies. I guess the added benefit of having to revisit the stages at least to get to hear all the music tracks again. And again, this game's soundtrack is absolutely glorious. From memory, none of the other Ape Escape soundtracks are quite like this. Each of the games have their own little feel to them. They use a very similar instrument set through all of them, though. I recall Ape Escape 3 being a lot more anime bouncy, kinda, for the early 2000s. Ape Escape 2, I think, is more or less just a middle step between the two in every sense of the word from memory. Although I recall some really interesting tech used in Ape Escape 2 especially. Like, Ape Escape 2 is one of the few games on the PS2 that not only allowed for widescreen, because that wasn't exactly a thing that was common at the time, of course, but it's one of the few games I've seen, I think Ape Escape 3 does this as well, where they plan around the widescreen. So, like, the levels are laid out in a way that widescreen can help with them, too. But also, like, when it comes to the FMVs and cutscenes, like, they don't stretch them out for the widescreen. They don't letterbox. They actively have more of the area rendered for widescreen. And I never really see games do that back when, especially, like, FMVs in the PS2 usually, even if the game was 16:9, the FMVs would still be 4:3. If there was a widescreen option. So seeing them go to that much effort is eerily impressive for the era. It just makes me, in a way, really sad that the studio who developed these games, which was Japan Studio out of PlayStation, I don't think exists anymore. I think they shut it down over the last year, year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in that range. And that's a shame. I hope we still get new Ape Escapes eventually again. I guess it depends on whether or not they have other developers pick up the franchise, or if they just do it as PlayStation Studios. Which, either could happen at this point, really. We've seen weirder things happen. Medieval getting that remake that was very faithful was out of nowhere. Nightmare Creatures getting one was out of nowhere. Although now that I think about it, we've seen some really out of nowhere remakes the past couple of years. Like the Ratchet and Clank remake was really out of nowhere outside of like the movie happening. The Klonoa collection that's coming out soonish for me is out of nowhere, but I'm really happy because that means Klonoa 1 can be experienced by more people without playing the Wii remake, which had less cutscenes in it. And people will actually be able to play Klonoa 2 because Klonoa 2, for those who don't know, is an infamously hard to run game. To the point where it's not just emulators that had troubles running it. They only really start running well in like more recent versions of PCSX2 and other PS2 emulators, as few as there are. The big thing is that even slim PS2s, which is the model I have, has trouble running Klonoa 2. It struggles because early PS2 programming could be janky. Mind you, it's like throughout most of the PS2's lifespan, I think they just coded in Excel. Which, impressive in its own right, but also terrifying. That's that monkey I mentioned on the first visit to this level, by the way. That's just about the entrance. You can get a lot of the monkeys you need for this level just in this first room. I think that's, what, 4 total out of a level? I think you need, what is it, 7 monkeys total? Ish? So you can really just come in here, grab the one that's on that statue and the 2 around the edge, and you probably, if you're not done then, you're about to be. Something this game does really drive home with me, though, is my preference in collectathons, if you consider this one at least. Because when it comes to the whole collectathon style of game, I'm very particular. I like Banjo-Kazooie, but I don't like Banjo-Tooie. Mario 64 is iconic, yeah, but something about it just doesn't fit with me. I'll get more into that when I eventually get to doing that game eventually, probably. And a lot of the other games throughout, like, the PS2 generation and GameCube stuff just didn't appeal to me. Like, I liked Jak 1, but I liked Jak 2, and especially Jak 3 more. And even then, Jak 2 and 3 weren't collectathons. Those were definitively action games. Or action platformers, at least. Action-adventure. Sly. Like, Sly 1 is my least favorite of those games, and that's the most collectathon-y of the 3 of those games. Completely ignoring Sly 4 exists. I do find this funny, though. Behind the demon statue in this area, there's just a little relaxing room for this one monkey to rest in. Ape Escape 3 has a lot of moments like this from memory.
Yes!
Mind you, again, it's like Ape Escape... In a way, Ape Escape kind of became more and more of a parody of other games as it went through, to the point where Ape Escape 3 is just a parody of visual mediums, period. Video games, movies, TV shows, anything that's visual like that, it parodies in some form. And I appreciate the ever-living hell out of it for that. Alright, so now we're going on to another one of my least favorite revisits. We're going over to Wabi Sabi Wall. And the main reason I don't like this revisit is that it's one of the most linear stages in the game that you have to revisit. And unless you very deliberately ignore monkeys earlier on in the stage, like the one that you have to jump across some platforms for to grab, or like 2 of the ones in the gong room, if you played it like I did, you have to go through the entire stage to get the very last monkey. The second to last one, you also have to go very far in. In fact, no matter what, that would have to be the last monkey you get, because you get the RC car after this stage anyway. With that said, the RC car monkey in particular is another one that's like the one from Dexter. You just have to take the RC car down there and scare them out. And like that one, once it's up the ramp, or once it's on the ramp, it'll run up the rest of it usually. With that said, this one's a little trickier than the one from Dexter, because this one doesn't have water to jump in, and instead runs around the lap in the entire direction you chase it out of. So this one will run across, if we call this counterclockwise. The other way would run clockwise. And because of that, it can be hard to capture, but if you use the super hoop to catch up with them before they get back into the area where the RC car still is, you should probably be fine. And now the last monkey is actually one we saw on screen during our first visit, but before we go, fly this way for the last Spectre coin. There is a safer way to do this, and it requires flying from where the last monkey is. Because the last monkey is right at the top of the tower, where we fought the UFO mini-boss when we were here the first time. And once you beat that UFO mini-boss, the door that is at the center of the platform you're on opens up, and you can slide down a pole there to reach the last monkey. But next to that monkey is a window you can fly out of to get to the furthest of the, or I guess the closest at least to the tower of the little stone platforms like the one that Spectre Coin was on. That Spectre Coin I'm really not a fan of because of the game's draw distance. Because PS1 games had some pretty bad draw distance a lot of the time anyway, and in some games they make it work, like Silent Hill. In this game, it actively obscures monkeys or Spectre Coins, so I really don't like it. Ape Escape 2 and 3, though, do a pretty good job of either limiting areas in the case there's a big draw distance issue, or they just let the camera and the game slow down a little bit in order to have a big sprawling area. And honestly, consistency aside, I prefer that, at least in terms of alright, you can see everything, nothing is obscured by bad system limitations. And that's Wabi Sabi Wall. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 14, we really just go after the levels that have one monkey left in them because you didn't have the magic punch when you started going through it. Crumbling Castle, TV Tower, Monkey Madness, I think even. The only level we spend a significant amount of time in is Spectre's Factory because there's like 2 or 3 monkeys left in there I think we haven't grabbed yet. See you guys then.